I call this Egypt versus the New York Times. It's an interesting little story. The full repercussions of President Donald Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital have yet to be felt. One rather strange little byproduct doesn't seem to have grabbed the world's attention as yet. It's a story capable of a number of interpretations, not all of them complementary to the principal players. The facts are these. On the 6th of January, just a few weeks ago, the New York Times published an exclusive news item based on 4 audio recordings that it said it had obtained. The Times report didn't vouchsafe precisely how they'd come into its possession. These recordings, it said, took place shortly after Trump had startled the world by announcing that the US recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital and would move its embassy there from Tel Aviv. They were, it said, recordings of telephone conversations between an officer of Egypt's intelligence service, Captain Ashraf al-Kholi, and 4 very well-known Egyptian media personalities, 3 of them hosts of influential talk shows. The TV hosts were Azmi Megahed, Mofid Fawzi, and Saeed Hassassin. The 4th person contacted by al-Kholi was Yusra, the Egyptian movie star. Captain al-Kholi told the 4 people he phoned that Egypt, like all our Arab brothers, would denounce Trump's decision in public, but that conflict with Israel was not in Egypt's national interest. He suggested that instead of condemning Trump's decision, these media personalities should persuade their viewers to accept it. In its report, the New York Times included the interesting information that TV chat show host Azmi Megahed had confirmed the authenticity of the recordings and had described al-Kholi as a long-time acquaintance. The Times article, which was immediately published online, raised a torrent of furious commentary in Egypt's pro-government media and in Parliament, where it was denounced as part of an international conspiracy to embarrass Egypt. This accusation, in fact, was partly confirmed when the very same audio recordings were broadcast by an Istanbul-based television network linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. The suggestion of a connection with a brotherhood, which Egypt has banned as a terrorist group, added to the outrage from supporters of the Egyptian government. Once in the public domain, an allegation that Egyptian intelligence had secretly attempted to sway public opinion in favor of accepting Trump's decision on Jerusalem could not go unanswered. 4 days later, Egypt's Prosecutor General, Nabil Sadek, ordered a criminal investigation. The New York Times article, he maintained, quote, undermines Egypt's security and public peace and harms the country's public interest. Well, the next developments were as one might have expected. Egypt's State Information Service, the SIS, released a statement denying the accuracy of the Times report on almost every count. No one named Ashraf al-Kholi, it maintained, worked for the intelligence service. Fawzi had not presented any TV programs for years, and Hassassin's show had ended weeks before Trump's declaration, and he was not currently presenting any program on air either. As for Yusra, SIS said that she was a movie actress totally unconnected with TV talk shows. Now, much of this may be true, but it has little relevance to the high profile enjoyed by those particular individuals among the Egyptian public. And it seems clear that SIS, and perhaps other organs of the state, subsequently subjected them to intense political pressure. It wasn't long before Megahed publicly retracted his original statement, authenticating the recordings and claiming that he was an old acquaintance of Kholi. In an Egyptian television interview, Mugahed said that the New York Times had misquoted him. Quote, "This is the first time I've heard of this Kohli man," he said. Next, actress Yusra and the other TV anchors denied knowing anyone named Al-Kohli or participating in telephone conversations with him. Yusra claimed not to have been in Egypt at the time they were reported to have taken place. The clear implication is that the recordings were faked. Not unsurprisingly, conspiracy theories followed. Pro-government television anchors called on the Times to explain how the recordings ended up with the Brotherhood-affiliated TV channel, and suggested that the newspaper was secretly in cahoots with Qatar. Egypt is one of 4 Arab nations that imposed a punishing boycott on Qatar last June, accusing it of financing Islamist terrorism and sheltering Brotherhood leaders. The Speaker of Parliament, Ali Abdel Aal, went along with this and said the article proved that the Times was allied with the Brotherhood and with Qatar, and was stoking controversy in advance of Egypt's forthcoming presidential elections. Finally, all the SIS could do was issue a statement asserting that Egypt had repeatedly declared its inalienable position on Jerusalem, sidestepping the fact that in doing so it was confirming what Al-Kohli had said would be the official line. A stout riposte was provided by Michael Slackman, the Times' international editor. I better quote this fully. Quote, "Our story was a deeply reported, consequential piece of journalism," he said, "and we stand fully behind it. The audio recordings were provided to the Times by an intermediary supportive of the Palestinian cause, but we had no agenda other than giving our readers the facts that they needed to know." The whole episode, true or false, comes at a delicate time for Egypt politically. The first round of new presidential elections is scheduled for March the 26th. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who is running for re-election, faces only a weak rival, since his principal challenger, former Prime Minister Ahmed Shafiq, pulled out of the race. Shafiq's lawyers claimed that officials had pressed him to quit on the threat of corruption prosecutions. All the same, the Egyptian public is unlikely to look kindly on a government-inspired endorsement, even a covert one, of Trump's Jerusalem declaration. The last thing Sisi wants come March is a poor turnout in his presidential poll. The result of the Prosecutor General's criminal investigation into the New York Times report is bound to make interesting reading. Well, thank you for listening, and please join me again next time. Goodbye.